Yo, this is Tebo, and we are here today for week 0 of the NPL Majors Power Rankings. This week we are ranking the sole drafts of all the Majors coaches you might have seen in the draft stream. Before I introduce my brand new co-host, just make sure you check all the Majors links in the description below and subscribe to the National Pokeball League's channel, because we all need all the support from you guys, and we've got a lot of you guys watching this season. But this season I have a brand new partner with me. You might have seen him from the Myers Power Rankings. We don't know how long he's going to be on there, but he's definitely going to be my partner for this season of the Majors Power Rankings. HalluNASTY, please introduce yourself.
So what is up, guys? I'm HalluNASTY. If you know me, it's going to be because of Nasty Clan dominance all across all games and formats. So check out Nasty Clan, because Nasty Clan is better than Fruit Clan. So as Turbo already said, we will be basing this week 0 strictly on to drafts. No player skill involved, no nothing, just strictly drafts. So do you want to do like one list 16 and then I'll talk about my 16?
We'll start at 16, our 16s respectively. So my 16, we'll keep this kind of brief. We don't want this to be one of those 2-hour long week 1, week 0 power rankings, but we'll keep it kind of brief. My number 16 is the Montreal Habsols and Asta. Now, I feel bad for putting Asta this low because I know he has the ability to draft a better team than this. My main issue with this team is it doesn't have a water type. I think that although a fire water grass core complete isn't necessary, I think that a bulky water is extremely necessary on a draft, and not having one means that his fire resists are just not there. And fire being a very predominant strong offensive typing, despite the fact that not every team drafts a fire type can quite easily just run through out his team correctly. I do see threats like Diggersby and Komo and Tapu Koko. I like that little trio there as well, and the Mega Aerodactyl, which Matty Brolix on this draft analysis was top 5 megas, which is an interesting statement at best, but it can be used very effectively, and it went to the finals last season, so that's a cool team. I don't have much to say other than I don't like the fact that the way Asta's drafted. I don't see the core synergy. I don't see a water type, which is a problem, and I know he drafted, in his words, as for synergy, but I don't see it. Maybe he has a plan, maybe it'll work for him. We'll see as it goes. Who's your number 16?
So yeah, I have Aster way higher than you have Aster. I definitely give Aster a little bit of leeway with this draft. My number 16 though, I have Rob. So I was just not really vibing with the Gotham City Golurks his draft. See, the biggest issue I have is he definitely went sand heavy, right? You first picked Excadrill, but then he got Hippopotamus as his sand user because he just kept getting sniped, and then it looked like he had to constantly change the direction of his draft, and I just didn't like it. He has a Regenerator Core, right? But then he has a Gyarados. So what is Gyarados and Slowbro realistically doing? Yeah, I guess it's Z Gyarados, but it's just all over the place. Like what I said before, I felt like he could not get a direction with this draft. Like he had idea, he wanted to go sand and then complement it, but then everyone just sniped him and it kind of just fell apart. So I hope he transactions it a little bit, cleans it up a little bit. I feel like it's just all over the place with no clear direction and no play style. Like I don't think you could derive a play style from his draft right now. That is why I have him at 16.
I mean, that's a nice segue into my number 15, which is Pokerob. Now, I agree with the first 2 pickups confuse me, considering that he could have got Kyurem Black instead of that Weavile, and then Excadrill Kyurem Black is just better than Excadrill Weavile. But I mean, Rob has got a history of, since I ranked him in the NPL, picking a seemingly interesting draft or a not amazing draft on paper and then making it work, so that could happen as well. I agree with you. I don't see why he needs to prioritize the sand user if he's taking Excadrill round 1, because if you really want that Excadrill, I wanted to have seen Tyranitar, even though Tyranitar went round 3, so he had an opportunity to take it and he didn't take it, or even then he could have taken Gigalith, but he didn't take it. It went round 5 or 6, I believe. So I think that's his own doing, and the reason he's down that low is because I don't really like the composition of his team, but it's Rob, so he could make it work. I like Mega Altaria though. But who's your number 15?
Yeah, definitely he can make it work. My number 15 is the Baltimore Braveries. So Moxie Infernape, I don't think he's got like necessarily bad draft. I just don't think he has the firepower that a lot of other drafts has. So like he has the top tier Mew and I guess the Infernape, and from there it's just a lot of like bulky offensive teams that I think people in this league are gonna be able to punish, right? So he doesn't have the immediate firepower of like a Coco or a Booler or anything like that, and his setup sweepers aren't as scary as like a Mega Scizor or a Manaphy or Zygarde 50 or anything like that. Like he does have the Zygarde 10%. So I see him relying a lot on Choice Banded and Choice Scarfed items to try to make up for what he lacks, and I just don't know if it'll necessarily be enough compared to the other stacked teams. especially when Tapu Lele's around, when there's Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Latios, when there's Aegis/Landers. I don't know if he has the raw utility and the raw power to match some of these other teams in their compositions. So that is why I'm at 15. So we'll move back to you in your 14.
Yeah, back to me at 14, which segued really nicely into me talking about Blake. You said a lot, which is really interesting as well. I like Blake. I like Blake's draft to some extent. I think it falls off towards the end with a weird or almost no pick, and then an Electros that could have been split into something else, maybe a 4 and a 5 point mon, or even just using the 9 and the 3 to get 3 other mons. I like his Z users in Infanip and Whimsicott. The issues I have with Blake's draft is Blake, to me, never exemplifies one specific playstyle. Like last season, he drafted a very bulky team, and it kind of worked for him, but kind of didn't. So Blake's team could either really work for him and be quite efficient in the same way a Rob draft doesn't look amazing on paper but really works, or it just might be a bit passive for him and a bit slow. So it could be either or. Moxie is always that dark horse because you never know what Moxie's going to turn up. It could be a losing record Moxie, it could be the Moxie that won the CPCD League, it could be the Moxie that tanked the major Pokemon League this season, down on it. So but we rank him as purely based on draft, and because it's naturally unimpressive to look at, I'm going to put Moxie there, although he has the ability to prove me wrong. But who is your number 14?
So number 14, I have Danikine, Cincinnati Slifer Reds. What I don't like about Daniki's team, right, is either he has to bring Rotom Heat removal or Mega Scissor removal. And while that's not necessarily bad, right, he also has a slow team on top of that. So he's very liable to get punished. When you look at his team, right, it's all sub-base 100s except for Rabombi and Frostlass. But again, how much do you really want to bring Frostlass? All base sub 100s, and he's going to be really web dependent. So when people start to notice this, and when they can see, they can click Calm Mind with the Latios and really punish, or they can click just bring Tapu Lele in and speed tie so many things and just punish, or just click Calm Mind with Tapu Koko or even Spec Koko and really punish. And he's going to have a really hard time, in my opinion, figuring out a way to deal with these faster threats, right? What is he going to be doing against the Adam and Aerodactyl? I don't know. I'm sure he can figure it out. But again, like, all these Pokemon are going to be an extra utility against him. I think a lot of his threats are linear, and that's going to help his opponents in prep phase. And when you have a linear threats you're playing against that you can outspeed, it makes it so much more easier to deal with. So while I do like his first 3 threats, I don't think, or his first 4 actually, I don't think he has the team to really complement them because they're all just too slow to do it that well, in my opinion. So now we'll transition to your 13.
Yeah, into my 13. We're going to talk about David. David's an interesting one because his draft kind of, in my opinion, and his opinion as well, is got very confused towards the end because he in his own words in his draft analysis, make sure you check out all the coach's draft analysis, by the way, if they've been uploaded by this point, that he said he was just panicking and picking picks towards the end. I think he's severely limited his Mega Kangaskhan's usage. I think he's got to use Mega Kang to break in his team because the only other massive breaker in his team is the Terrakion. He's got a nice setup sweeper and Venomoth as a user as well. It's very cool. And then Cresselia is, you can argue that's a setup sweeper, but it's not very efficient as a setup sweeper. And Jolteon and Greninja aren't really breaking anything unless Greninja has specs or Jolteon has specs. So I don't necessarily think that he's drafted to support Mega Kang very well. I think that's the reason I've ranked it that low, because Mega Kang will not be able to shine in this draft, and neither will the Terrakion, and he's going to have to be forced to bring very specific gimmicks or rely heavily on Venomoth setup to win games. So I think he needs to make some transactions to adjust that so he can free up the Mega Kangaskhan a little bit more and help it do the versatile things that it can be used for. But who's your number 13?
So I just want to quickly touch on the fact that you talked about Cresselia and its efficiency, and I would definitely say Cresselia is efficient, but I will talk about that when I get to David's draft. So my number 13, though, I have the Houston Soul Rockets and the Bee's Knees. So why do I have this draft at 13? Mainly it comes down to the fact that I really don't like Blacephalon, I don't really like Toxapex. Besides that, it's a pretty standard draft in my opinion. Yeah, that's really all I have about that. That's like, someone had to be 13. I don't like those 2 mons. I think he's gonna, I don't know if he'll have trouble using them, right? Because it depends on the player. But I kind of, when I did my perspective on how much I like these drafts, I decided on how I would be able to use these Pokemon. And I feel like he's got a lot of Pokemon that I wouldn't be able to use very well, and that'll make the draft difficult to use. So he'd have to be really creative with it. So that's why I have it. That's why I have it low. Pretty simple explanation.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I've got Adam a tiny bit higher. I'll talk about him in a minute. But first, I want to talk about probably the pick that me and you have the biggest difference in opinion on. And I know why already the biggest difference in opinion is. I think Merc's team is very linear and will be able to be played around very easily because there are everything on his team does one thing and does one thing very well. Tapu Lele, no, you're not seeing physical Tapu Lele. Zapdos is arguably his most versatile one, that's fair enough. Heatran is most likely going to either be Scarf defensive or Trap or Rocks. That's it. Kartana's physical only. Aloe is defensive only. Mega Venu, you can mix up a little bit, but the composition of his team, Mega Venusaur is looking like it's being very limited into a defensive role and less offensive Mega Venusaur because he hasn't got very, very good psychic switch-ins, especially with the psychic terrain up. He's really limited himself there. He has an Umbreon, which is a good psychic switching to some extent, but it's very, very passive, and setup can run a house on Umbreon. And looking at Merc's team compared to setup, that's a problem. It's also one of only 2 teams that have 10 Mons in this draft, and I really don't like that. I think you go to a massive disadvantage if you're minus 2 the maximum amount. So I don't mind an 11 Mon draft in a 12 Mon format, but I don't like minus 2 Mons because I think you lose a massive prep advantage over those 2 Mons which someone has over you. The Z-Dugtrio is nice and Z-Aerodactyl is nice as well, but I think Merc's team will get exposed. I also don't like Tapu Lele, and I think it is offensively checkable in the draft format. I don't think it's as broken as everyone seems to think it is, but we shall see how Merc's draft goes. But you're going to talk about Merc much later. Who do you have in that spot?
I'm 10-0 by the way, so that's just slight me unplug it in there. But number 12, I have the Los Angeles Nido Kings and Crobat for the win. So what I didn't like right off the bat for his draft is that he has 2 Incarnate / Thorane users, and I really don't think that's that great because you really double up on flying types and they typically do really similar things, right? When you look at those Pokemon, yeah, Landorus has the ground and the earth power and stuff, but they really rely heavily on their coverage moves like the Sludge Waves, the Psychics, the Sensories, all that stuff. So when you can typically, if you could check or counter one, then you could just counter the other one too. And there's real no way for them to be able to bypass, well, Landorus can for Tornadus. So I think that becomes like a really linear playstyle, but I don't think they like complement each other that well. I mean, we'll definitely see this season, but from first glance, I didn't think they complemented each other. From there, it's just pretty standard. Mega Gyarados is not my favorite Mega by any means. I actually think it's pretty bad. Truth be told, I think it's like really bad. I don't want to say bottom 5 because I'm sure I could list 5 worse, but I might say bottom 10 Megas. So overall, that's it. I think his playstyle attacks the same counters, but I don't think they overwhelm the same counters. So that's why I'm having issues with his draft, in my opinion. So yeah, let's hop into your number 11.
Yeah, my number 11 is Adam. You mentioned briefly Adam. My main problem with Adam is his team is really, really awkward. I like Mega Lopunny, Bucephalon. They're 2 really, really, really nice breakers. And then a Superior as well is a really, really nice type trio with a Z Dragonite as well with the setup element. But then the defense he has is really, really awkward and doesn't quite fit together nicely. So he's got Klefki, Hippowdon, Toxapex. So he's going to be defogging the stack that he has off those 3 Mons, which doesn't make any sense. With a Dragonite on the team, you need a bit more efficient recovery. Personally, I was quite triggered that he picked up Bucephalon, and honestly, I think Mega Lopunny Kofag is a much better pairing than Mega Lopunny Bucephalon because Kofag provides better team support. He wouldn't have to draft the Toxapex. He could have got a bit more of a versatile fire and water type to spend his types and balance out the speed tiers a little bit better. I just think his team is quite awkward. It could work. It could work really, really well. It could tank. I think it's one of those teams. But Mega Lopunny is auto 10 kills this season at least anyway. So there's 10, and then nobody knows how Bucephalon is going to do yet because I've never seen anyone use it properly. So maybe Adam is that person to do that. But to me, the team's a little bit awkward. He's got some shining lights there with the Z Mesprit and Z Dragonite. I'm a very big advocate for low tier C users, but I just think it's awkward on paper. That's my main thing to say about Adam. Who is in your equivalent spot?
So my number 11 is the Phoenix Sunkerns and Cheeseboy628. So when you look at his draft from the beginning, right, it's looking real good. You got the Jirachi Kyron Black, and then he comes in with a Tapu Bulu, and I'm like, that's clean, right? But then from there, in my opinion, it starts to fall off. So he gets all these other cool things too, you know, like the Holucha coming in with the Bulu. He gets Gigalith and he gets Stoutland Sandplug. But then you're looking and you're like, where's his removal at? He's got Rotom and he's got Tentacruel. But do you really want to be bringing Rotom or Tentacruel every game? No, not really, because what are they doing? They struggle in the format, definitely. They're definitely easily punished, mainly because of the lack of removal. So I definitely see him being hazard weak. And I'm a player, personally, my play style, I like to have really good hazard control on both sides. I like to make sure there's no hazards on my side and hazards on the opponent's side. And I feel like if you could consistently do this every game, you're going to win way more games than you lose. And for that reason, I just see Cheese's team struggling. I don't think he's got very good hazard control. his rockers are pretty okay. Mega Steelix, Gigalith, and Jirachi. But I feel like he's going to have a really hard time keeping rocks off his field. And when you start running things like the Chiron Black, when you have the Volcanion, when you have even like HalluNASTY really doesn't want to deal with it. Well, I mean, it doesn't really care, I guess, but still doesn't really want to deal with it. Even your removals don't even want to deal with Stealth Rockers. For that reason, I really don't like his draft all that much. That's why I have it where I have it.
That's fair enough. I can see that. But next up, at my number 10, I have the Regulator. Regulator dropped it because I stole it from his name. With his team, now Greg's team mildly triggers me, but also I kind of like it at the same time. The reason it mildly triggers me is I think he wasted the last 10 points in round 9 and 10 in Raticate, Alola, and Toxapex. I think Toxicroak, not Toxapex. I think that he could have spent it slightly more wisely to fill out the bottom end of his draft. Like I said before, I don't like 10-1 drafts in a 12-1 format because I think it gives you an initial prep disadvantage that you don't need. Just to reiterate that, I don't think I explained it that well in the Merc explanation. But I really like the Lando Teaming of Charizard X, Rotom Wash, because that is a basic core. I told Greg that he was being that basic guy drafting that core because everyone seems to love that core at the moment. But I mean, everyone loves it because it's very efficient. I like the Sizzle, although Sizzle sometimes struggles if it's your only steel type. That's why he's picked up Stack Attacker. But then I think that his draft is very, very limited by the fact that he's got 7 great mons and then overspent on round 8, 9, and 10 when he could have balanced out the spend and fixed up a few gaps in speed tier. Perhaps got a tiny bit more removal than just Sizzle or Rotom Wash. I know Rotom Wash is very, very efficient, but a spinner would have been nice. I think that he just needed a little bit more team support and he could have rounded that off with a few more mons, and that's why I've ranked Greg low. I can see why the 10 mons on paper can be ranked highly on a lot of people's and a lot of people's power rankings, but the main reason I've got them low is I have to keep my policy consistent with Merc as well, is that 2 mon loss in prep on paper could make this draft significantly worse when prepping against a team with 12 mons, because that 2 mon difference could be huge. But who is your equivalent number 10?
So at number 10, I have the Houston Toxapex. So Trev does have 12 Pokemon, right? And you're talking a lot about 10 Pokemon being a disadvantage. I completely disagree. Truth be told, when we look at Trev's draft, like, how hard are you actually prepping for the Pikachu or Murkrow? You know, maybe a little bit. You keep it in the back of your mind. You just check to make sure you don't insta-lose to him. But are you really actually prepping for him? I disagree. I think my philosophy on doing a draft is that it's better to get as many threats as you can and Pokemon that you can use and make your opponent actually have to prep and consider them and have them being viable brings every single week. Because at the end of the day, right, you can only bring 6 Pokemon to the battle, so it doesn't matter if you have 100 if you're only going to be able to bring 6. So that's why I think it's better to have less good mons than more bad mons. But talking about Trev's draft, right, he got the Mega Mawile, and we have not been seeing success with that with Mio in the minors yet. And I really haven't been seeing have not really seen it been that successful since Gen 6. I don't know what happened. I maybe Trev can like prove it wrong, but the way his draft's going, it's like an okay draft. I don't really have that many qualms from it. But when Mega Mawile is not putting in the work he can, and his threats become Salamence, Nicholas Keldeo, and then I guess Breloom and Nidoqueen, I think he just has an average draft, so that's why I have him as a pretty average placing.
I mean, I'll talk about Trevor a bit later as well, but into my number 9, and I've got Abe and the Newcastle Umbreon. Abe's team started off really, really nicely with the Latios, Tapu Fini core, and people don't like that core. I've got it in minus, and I think that because Latios has access to Ice Beam, when it's going to be trying to bring Dragon coverage on the whole, generally, Ice coverage is just better, and therefore will do the same damage to the dragons that are in front of them, especially if they're flying dragons. So I think that the Misty Terrain doesn't inhibit Mega Latios' ability to do things as much as people might say it will, or it says on paper. I like Tyranitar as well. My problem with Abe's team is the speed tiers kind of fall off a little bit. He doesn't have anything killer fast above 110, which I think is kind of risky in terms of draft. I think you always need to get that thing that's above 110. Yamega's nice with the speed boost as well. Yamega is kind of killing it in the minors right now as well, so hopefully Abe can use it as well as Keegan has been using it. I like Roserade, it gives him nice T-Spike uses. The one thing I do like about Abe's team is Abe is using my theory of lots of low tier Z users is better than one big Z user and one that you might not use often, because I think it gives you a prep advantage over your opponent. Like you said before in the Greg analysis, I think that Um, I think that even if that mon is, or in the Trevor analysis, sorry, even if that mon is in the back of your head and you slightly look over it, there is always a chance that mon will then sweep you or kill you, instead of having a lot of concentrated mons in a small amount where you can just see what they're going to do. Therefore, I think the zero option Typhlosion could come to the game and just completely destroy something because someone's looked over it. Or even something like a Poison EMZ Roserade could come in and do some damage and get a crucial kill that it might not have been able to get otherwise. So I like that. But the main problem is the speed tiers and some very, very slow walls on Abe's part. He also lacks a bit of momentum as well. He's got the Thundy T, and I mean, guess Omega, but it's not great U-turn. So that's my gripes with Abe's draft. I think Tyranitar Sand could wear down a few of his mons as well. But who's your number 9?
So number 9, I have the Montreal Habsel and Aster. So while you did have him at 16, I do have him at 9. The reason why I have him so much higher than you do is because, one, I think a lot of people sleep on the Tapu Koko, and I do not think by any means that Tapu Koko is a Pokemon that you could sleep on. I think Tapu Koko has such a high skill ceiling in this format that if you can really use Tapu Koko, you'll get a lot of success just on the back of Tapu Koko. Another reason is guys, I think Kuma-O is on the come up, right? So Kuma-O, you're not going to talk about Kuma-O when you talk about the best dragons, right? But I think that is a Pokemon that is becoming a lot more threatening, just because it's so much versatile, and it's actually more. It's like fatter than what you expect, right? Mega Aerodactyl is another Mega that's on the come up. So I think Aster, while his team doesn't look as threatening at first glance, I think he has a lot of threats that if he does well this season and his draft performs to at least my expectations, people will start viewing these Pokemon as a lot bigger threats, because the spotlight's going to be all on them, because what other threats does he have? I also do like some of his supports where I think Uxie's a great mon. It's like a budget Cresselia with rocks. Fortress, if you use that well, it's pretty good. His removal is a little lacking, but he does have Savali to cover up for the water that you talked about before, and I think Amoonguss is also another great pivot. So I think he's got enough defensive options to help out his threats. But his threats aren't the big name threats, but I think they could become after this season. So that is why I have him where I have him at number 9. Let's go to your number 8.
That's fair enough. I've got Ace of Base at number 8. Now, Ace of Base is an interesting one because his team doesn't scream amazing, but it also is quite efficient. So that's why I sort of put him in the middle, because his team is good. Every mon on his team is good in some form. Like his first 8 mons, completely sexual. I can deal with that. They're amazing. They're awesome. And then the bottom 4, I kind of like, you could have spent your points a little bit better, which is really, really interesting. Because I think if he carried on the way he was drafting the first 8 into the bottom 4 and sort of balanced his team out a bit better, his team could be a top 4, top 5 team quite easily. Mega Galley Thunderous Eye, although on paper doesn't scream this is broken, holy shit, I swore you have to cut that out. But although on paper it's not gonna scream that this is broken, I think that they're actually really, really efficient combo. And Mega Galley Thunderous Eye is a really, really difficult core to switch into. I like the Togekiss chilling there with the Makalolo. Again, it's just a really nice core. Latias is nice because it gives him Healing Wish support, and then Empoleon is cool because it can do a versatile amount of things, and people too easily judge Empoleon or just limit Empoleon's usage. It's one of those ones like Ring of Venusaur where you can run offensive sets with it and it will do jobs that you didn't think it could do. I got 8 kills on the GPC with Empoleon because people were completely trashing it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to flex out and see if I can do it. I did bring it as a defog in some games, but Empoleon isn't drafted for defog. I think that Ace can show you how it's done. Although his team is looking a little bit electric weak at this point in time, although he does have a Stunfisk and a Seismitoad and a Stunfisk and a Seismitoad, but I don't think the Lickitung is going to come to any games. So again, basically the reason it's middle ground is because it's average on paper, it could work really well, and the bottom 4 mons could be switched up for more value, but that's going to transfer so far.
So I just have to nitpick you really quick. You said Lickitung not coming to any games, but what you meant to say was that Lickitung was coming to the first 3. Because that's how we use Lickitung in the NPL.
Yeah, Cloud
All right, so at number 8, I had the Newcastle Umbreons and Abe. So kind of similar to what you were saying about Abe, right? The issue I definitely have right at the first glance, right, that he does not have the speed tiers over 110. So you're going to see things like the Lopunny getting adamant there, Dr. Talk about getting adamant, even the Tapu Koko getting modest. Do you really want the Tapu Koko getting modest? No, you don't. But I do see a lot of cool things that he's going to be doing. He's got the Yanmega, he's got the Hitmonlee. I'm excited to see those, right? He's got really, really good breaking power with the Thunderous T and the Mega Latios Calm Mind. even the Tapu Fini or Tyranitar boosting the Snorlax. So I have a number 8 average team. I do think he has his fair share of weaknesses, but I think he definitely has a lot of win cons, and win cons is definitely important in drafts. So that is why I have him at number 8.
Next up, at number 7, this one gave me a headache and a half to rank Daniki and the Cincinnati Slifer Reds, because I have a massive problem with this team. But in the same light, this team could also work very well. Like, I don't like the team personally, but I tried to do this objectively as ability of a team and experience through power ranking. So I don't like the team. I think that the team gets broken down too easily by toxic spikes. I think that without a grounded poison type and Dan's general lapse of not bringing any form of hazard removal to any games means that this team will get broken down by hazards tech very, very, very easily, which is a problem. I also think that the same 6 mons or the same 6 or 7 mons will appear every game. So I genuinely think you'll see Zy50, Manaphy, Hooper, Jamin, potentially Mega Scizor or Miltank pretty much every week. This team is slightly webs reliant as well, because like you said, the speed tiers are a bit all over the place. But then on the flip side, he has some ridiculous offense. Hooper U Zygarde 50 is spam plus more spam in terms of just clickable moves. Manaphy is one of the best ones in format. Mega Scizor is insta priority. Rabombi's a really nice mon just in general, aside from the webs. Miltank is really, really ridiculously versatile. Kabutops is chill in there as well. I'm not a fan of Z Frostlass. Z Manaphy's a good set, so there's that. The main reason I ranked him at number 7, because quite honestly, the reason I ranked him at number 7 is because this draft, when I saw it, reminded me of Riz's draft last season. Riz's draft last season, I ranked middle of the draft, and that's because it could have either banged or tanked. It made finals. So, in my opinion, Daniki is either going to make finals or completely tank. And I think he's on the side of lapsing off purely because of the hazards issue, but that's my analysis on Daniki. It's quite a complicated one.
Okay. Okay, so my equivalent, I believe it is number 7, is the Anaheim Altarias and coached by Yusuf. So yeah, I definitely agree with a lot you were saying, right? He definitely had a lot of good value picks and he definitely picked Pokemon, right, that could fill niches. He has the Empoleon, Bataya Berry Agility is the only set you'll ever need in your entire life. I hope I see it every single week because they have to prep for it, and if they don't, they'll insta lose. But overall, like, it just didn't ultra impress me, right? I'm not the biggest fan of Togekiss because some people think it's the best fairy. That's not me. Darmanitan as a fire type, I think you probably want a little bit more of a defensive fire type. Maybe not with the Muckalolan, but there's just some I don't know how to exactly say that. There's just some aspects of his draft that I think he's missing that I would have in my drafts. So that's why I think he definitely has a good draft, but not my favorite draft. So that's why he's at number 7. As concise as that was.
Basically echoed what I said. But coming in at number 6, we have Kriver for the win, and the loss and Kings. For me, I like the double Genie core actually. I think it's one of those cores that's really hit and miss. So you don't like it, I like it. I think that if used correctly, it will work. It also gives him, remember, you don't have to bring both Genies to every game, which means that he has the ability to have the choice of Genie when prep, which I think is a good advantage that people might look over. Victini's there. Victini's hit and miss for me now. I think it's overrated. I think it's very overrated actually. And Rocks are a slight problem to his team. When I say slight, he's got 3 defoggers, but 2 of them you don't really want to be bringing defog on as well, and you don't really want to limit Rotom Mo's ability with sticking defog on that 4th move instead of perhaps a Will-O-Wisp or a Pain Split. I like Sylveon plus Mega Gyarados, that's nice. Mega Gyarados is kind of all the wave at the moment. It's the wave that everyone's riding. We'll see how that turns out. Obviously, first time Mega is not a thing in the NPL. First time Mega is a thing in the NPL. It's not, you have to make a first turn, so perhaps that inhibits Mega Gyarados' usage. I don't know. Danza kind of likes Gyarados as a monster. You can see why he picked that. I like the double Genies, that's fine. I think there are the fundamental flaws in this team. Like it forces defog on models that he doesn't necessarily want to have defog on. Victini doesn't appreciate rocks, and Mega Gyarados could either be the breaking bit power that it is, or might completely not be. So we'll see how that goes. I like the Gyarados tech at the end because it gives him nice webs and T-spikes that someone has to think about in prep, otherwise like completely fool them. And he has Wish Support Kang, so that's always nice as well from Danza. But I can understand why people don't like this draft as well.
Okay, so number 6, I have FC Poplio and Magic. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying with he needs to get a lot of utility to make it Kangaskhan, right? But when you draft 18 points on a Pokemon, you gotta just hope you get the value out of it, or you just wasted 18 points, right? That's a struggle. Mainly what I liked about his draft was that he had Cresselia. I'm not gonna lie, but I thought he also had a lot of. I thought his low tier Pokemon were a lot more threatening than other people's low tier Pokemon. And when you look at it, I think that's what really, really, really makes or breaks the draft is the low tier Pokemon. Because as we've been talking about, as we've been debating our philosophy on how many Pokemon you should have, everybody's going to prep for your top tier Pokemon. Everyone's going to prep for the Mega Kangaskhan. Everyone's going to prep for his Terrakion, right? But how well prepped are they going to be for the Cresselia? How well prepped are they going to be for an offensive Donphin? How well prepped are they going to be for Malamar? I mean, I'm assuming because, David and Comfy go so well together to be prepped for the Comfy. But if it was somebody else, how well are you actually going to prep for the Comfy? So, in that regard, I definitely think you're a low tier Pokemon, or even you're just like not top tier Pokemon in your draft, make your draft. And I definitely think David's got some better middle to low tier Pokemon than others. So that's why I have him ranked at number 6. I also think Venomoth is going to be an animal this season. I hope it happens. Yeah, we'll move on to your number 5.
I mean, I hope Venomoth's an animal this season as well. But speaking of a team that I hope does well this season, I'm not supposed to be biased. I'm going to be biased sometimes in his power rankings because at this point, I can do what I want, But I like Trev's draft a lot. I've used Trev's draft in a couple of mocks for a specific week that I'm not going to talk about, but I like it. I like the way it plays. I like the synergy between the mons. I like the Pikachu actually, and the thing is, Trev's insane enough to bring it. So I think that Pikachu surprisingly can have good matchups, and with a Light Ball it hits ridiculously hard. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes talking about Pikachu because I could quite easily do that. You did make a good point about the fact that Mega Warwell hasn't shone in the NPL at the moment. It's been used by Togebar, it's been used by Mio. I don't believe anyone else has used it other than those two. Trev technically picked it up, I think, but it hasn't been possible. I think Trev, with his ability to run Trick Room very, very effectively, as shown in the Season 4 finals of the NPL, if anyone knows what that game is. Reuniclus and Trev go together like toast and butter because they're just great mons together. I like the Breloom. I love the Breloom Reuniclus core. It's kind of like a meme core there as well going on. But I think that Trev's got the right hazard support with him. He's got that cheeky pass line Nido Queen core, which people hated on for Hypertoad, but I think Trev's picked up as well. Kind of legitimized that core a little bit as well. He's also got webs and Slurpuff, which people might not know as well. Chandelore's kind of nice. It's a mon you don't see picked up a lot. It can either, I think it goes defense if used properly on Trev's team is really good as well. And in summary, I think it's actually the best Mega Morwell team I've seen so far. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's a GOAT team. There's definitely better drafts on this list. But I think in terms of the ability to support Mega Morwell, Trev's done the best job so far in terms of any league that's allowed it in terms of drafting it. So I've got Trev to probably hit his Trev the King days in this season again. We shall see. Another pick to just to watch out for is he and probably Abe have the best Z users. I think Z Hajalola and Z Salamik is ridiculous. With the Z Fly, the Z Parting shot available to him, as well as just the setup options on his team, I think that Trev and Abe have the best Z user combinations. But who do you have in that equivalent?
So at number 5, I have Los Angeles Reshirems and Matty Brawlick. So he's second round Celestella, right? And that's fine. Like, nothing against Celestella. But his team, he's obviously got a good team, right? I placed him at 5. But when I look at his low tier threats, right, I don't think, is Monferno ever coming to a game? Is Lapras ever coming to a game? Right? I see Mushroom not coming to a game, but that's kind of taunt bait because I've used it before. Licky Licky's kind of taunt bait, but Body Slam could be a thing, right? Swirlow's very linear, but there's definitely still threats you have to consider. So I definitely do think he has a team. I think his team's a little more linear than he would like, right? Mega Tyranitar's not linear, but let's talk about the Ozramera, right? It's going to be some kind of physical variant, whether it's banned. I mean, it could be Sap Sipper, but it's still going to be some kind of physical variant. Nidokaine's actually kind of versatile, but Dumb Eyes, it's going to be some kind of slow offensive variant. Well, it could be defensive, but it's going to do the same things over and over. Raiku's going to do the same things over and over. Swallow's going to do the same things over and over. And it's because of this linear stuff that I think he's going to struggle with. Because we hear about him when he entered took over for Dallas Boy in Season 6 with his 3 straight 6-0s, right? The team he had was Magerno, Charrex, Lando T, and there's a lot of versatility you can do with those Pokemon. You see the Calm Mind Lando T's come out, you see the special Charizard X's come out. Magerno just coverage is too insane, and I would like to see him with a draft with more versatility than the Dalmais, which, I mean, yeah, you can run special, but it's not really doing anything special. Like, you're never going to run a special Azumarill. It's going to be some kind of physical variant that everyone's going to prep for. It's just stuff like this. So that is why I'm a 5th and not higher. Then I know you probably have him. So let's talk about your number 4.
Yeah, I think you've got Matty criminally underrated, but I'll talk about Matty in a minute. Interestingly, number 4 is the only space on this draft that we have on equals, and that is the boy, the Verd. Now, before I start this analysis, the Verd was chatting the big balls before this draft, and he was saying about how Mega Bomber Snow is the best thing in the world, and how he's going to draft it, and it's going to be broken. But let me just quickly look at Verd's team. Oh, what? What? Mega Diancie round 1? Verd. You can't be chatting all the balls and then not pick up the Mon. So can we get hashtag Verd has no balls in the comments below? That's really good. I'm sure he'll really appreciate me for getting that one out there. But on a serious note, Verd's core is disgustingly good. Mega Diancie, Hydreigon, Gengar is a threat on threats on threats. I really like the Poison Dark Fairy Core. That's really nice. I think people like FDS. FDS is a good core. FWG is okay, but I like this offensive core right here as well. I think if you had a stronger fighting type than Blaziken, although Blaziken's actually very efficient, has got slightly better this gen, especially as a Z user is quite nice as well. I think if you had a stronger fighting type, again, I think he was considering Conkeldurr. That could have been super nice. I like the Necrozma's bulk on his team. I'm not sure what Z Necrozma does. We'll see how that goes, because I think there's other mons. He could have Z'd Xurkitree for a slightly cheaper price as well. That might have been a better pick of a Z user. We don't know yet. We can see. Or Z Gengar even as well could have been nice. But that's cool. I like the webs and Araquanid as well. I'm not sure what Marini's doing on that squad, but again, it's just the money is to prep for. It gives him T-Spikes as well, which is nice. Watermelon is a good little pivot. Even though it can be passive at times. I think his team is slightly lacking in setup. That's the big gripe I have with his team, is it doesn't have enough setup. I also am not convinced by Firstborn. Gliscor's lovely in terms of that, but I think the fact that he doesn't have anything that's going to boost his speed and another stat when setting up is going to hinder his team quite a lot. But into the Verd, I want to see some creative sets. I want to see Sharp Mega Diancie. Please, Verd, if you can do that, that'd be awesome. And if you want to do anything else, offensive Ferrothorn is also always a nice bring. So, Verd, if you want to bust those sets out for the viewers, make sure you give your jabronis a happy time. But who have you got in at that spot?
So yeah, as you said, we definitely we agreed on this spot. If I knew about the Mega Abomasnow, I would have insta-16'd him, but I didn't know about it, so unfortunately I have him at 4th. So yeah, definitely get a Verd no balls in the comments. Let's get it. But yeah, as you said, I really do like his top tier threats, right? Mega Diancie, I really like it. I think Magic Bounce is like super good, but not Mega City Black, because that's easily punchable. But like an offensive Magic Bounce, super good, because it's like a pain in the ass to deal with the hazards. Trying to get hazards up against an offensive threat that you don't even want to come in. I think the Hydreigon is becoming a higher priority Dragon. I think it's really good, especially at 14 points, right? And then we talked about the Gengar, the Necrozma, all that. But then again, as I've said a few times, right, I really like his lower tier threats, right? He's got the Araquanid at 9 points, the Blaziken at 9 points, that I think he'll be able to use really well. When we look at the Blaziken, right, you talked about get better this gen. I think this Mon had like 12 kills for Jake when he went undefeated in the CPC run, right? The Arachnid's really good. It's rising in popularity. I agree with you that I would like to see Z Xurkitree over Necrozma. I guess we'll just find out over the season of what the Necrozma does. Yeah, that's all I have to say about his draft. I think good top tier threats with good middle to low tier threats, and then you have a good draft. So let's move on to number 3 for you.
Number 3 is the only other team that we had a massive conflict over in terms of ranking, and that is slightly because I have a soft spot for Cheese Boy teams. I think Cheese Boy teams are very efficient, and they do jobs that very well as a unit and as a synergetic sort of squad. I do see what you're saying about hazard removal, and I'm not going to get killed because I absolutely rinsed Dan's draft for the fact that T-Spikes destroy it. But I genuinely, you said earlier in his power rankings that you believe Defog. You quote Mons and active Defog is a necessary bring. I don't necessarily think it is. I think it's very punishable. I think that Cheese Boy has a team that punishes a team that wants to get hazards up quite easily as well. I think the Kieran Black's an awesome breaker as well. The Z Spirit Tomb is actually really nice and requires thought when people are prepping for it, because the Z Spirit Tomb, on the face of it, could easily be looked over, but also has a really nice sort of selection of tools that it could use as well. With that Ghost Archetyping is really nice. Z bait. I'm not a huge fan of Volcanion. I do like it, but then on a team that doesn't like hazards, I don't like it. Tentacle is nice because it gets spin plus T spikes, which is always good. And it's a lot bulkier than people think it is. A lot of championships have been won with a Tentacle on the squad that I've seen. Aaron's nice. That's a cheese board pick and a half. And I don't mind that pick actually, because he is allowed to run level 1, so anyone watching here is allowed to run level 1, so fear is a thing, and all the coaches should fear the fear Aaron, because fear Aaron is, Cheese won't be scared to bring it, and will bring it at least once this season. Could quite easily see him bringing it 3 times this season, but that's a bit of a bold prediction, and I like to do that on my power rankings. Jirachi Kuro Black Tapu Voodoo is a sexy core, but my main problem is the hazards, and I think the 2 teams above him are able to deal with the hazards a lot better, but I do have a soft spot for Cheese teams, and that's why he's slightly higher.
Yeah, so my number 3, I have Merck in the San Francisco Reggie Giants. So yeah, we definitely had stark contrasts and opinions about this stuff. While I will concede the point that Merck has a somewhat linear draft, right? I don't know in this case if it matters, right? Yeah, Tapu Lele can be linear all at once, but you still have to find a way to deal with this linearness, and I don't like what can like an Aegislash, cool. Also, what I really like about this draft in particular is the Z Drug Trio with the Tapu Lele, right? So now you're forcing the Jirachis to run Shed Shell, you're forcing the Metagrosses to run Shed Shell, and that takes away from the AV Metagross trying to be a Lele counter. So many Lele counters right here and right now have been removed, right? And as we know, we can tell by OU, there really aren't that many Lele counters because Stall did run Doug Trio to deal with the Lele. So I think he's got just a stacked team. I talked about the instant power a little bit before, and I don't remember whose draft it was. I don't remember whose draft it was. The instant power, Merc has that. He has great breaking with Cortana, like Z Cortana, or not Z Cortana, SD Cortana. Yeah, I do concede he has the linear draft, but I don't think it's a linear draft. People are gonna have an easy time prepping for. That is why I have it at number 3. Talk about your number 2.
Number 2, I've got the man, the myth, the legend who's returned for this season and is looking like he's going for the title, and probably is my pick for the title this season as a little controversial one. Matty Ball, I think his team is class. Quite honestly, I think it's a very, very Matty Bullock draft. I think it screams Matty Bullock, actually. I really love the Azumarill. I love the Bonnie to death. I think Matty will be able to use it effectively. Very, very effectively. Matty Bullock, again, is Nido King is a very Matty Bullock one as well. Just being able to be extremely versatile on more than one set and also be able to set a hazard up. I think that the versatility Matty really, really likes is there as well. He's got his Licky Licky. He's got his bit of bulk there as well. With the Latios as well, Latios Celesteela Azumarill is such an efficient core to work together with. Raiku's nice, but again, I see his team kind of struggling, breaking down thick ground types. It might seem to be a problem. He's got the Azumarill there as well, but if that thing goes down, thick ground types are a bit of a problem to his team, especially with that Mega Tyrantile at the bottom, which is a really interesting one, because it's quite complicated to use. But I think with the effort and prep that Matty puts in, the EVs will come naturally with that Tyrantile, and it will be EV'd very, very specifically and very, very meticulously to do what it needs to do. I do agree with you as well with the Lapras and the Musharna pickups. I think that he could have spent that 8 points a bit more wisely than he did. I think that he could have got a much better Psyche type than the Musharna, maybe an 8 point. But if he had 8 points, he couldn't have avoided Mesprit there. But he could have found something that was slightly better than those two. But I've always been intrigued to see Lapras. Oh no, he could have avoided Musharna if he ditched that Monferno as well. But not Musharna, Mesprit. But again, I think that Matty Bollock's team, aside from the fact that it may struggle to break down big ground types, the only issue with it is that he could fall off with the fact that his Lapras and Musharna makes his prep a little bit more limited, especially with the Licky Licky as well. Licky Licky plus Musharna could either be an awesome core to bring together to a team, or also could be completely redundant in a said matchup, which puts him 2 mons down in prep already. That's my only issue with Matty's team. I really like it. He's my pick for the title this season already, just on looking at the draft and knowing how he plays. But there's one man above it. You can talk about your number 2 before I talk about this man.
So at number 2, I have a soft spot for Charizard X, and so I have Los Angeles Collectible and Regulator's team, right? the reason why I'm just gonna have to say it. The reason why Greg's not #1 with his draft is because Rotom Wash sucks garbage, and you need Starmie on every single draft. I don't know how many times I gotta tell these people. It's a stupid fruit clan. They don't know how to play Pokemon. They pick up the Rotom Washes with the Charizard X, and it's bad. Okay, but yeah, I do really like the Landorus with the Charizard X. Scissor's a Pokemon I've been sleeping on. I think Scizor plus Scolipede might get a little redundant, right? And I do agree with you that I think he wasted points a little bit on the last. I think he already has so many like sweepers that he really doesn't need a Stakataka, but I would have liked to seen a more versatile steel type that could offer him a little bit more support, right? When you look at his rock users, I don't even know if Stakataka learns rock, but it's Celebi and it's Landorus T. And do you always want to be running rocks on those Pokemon? Definitely not. You probably much never want to be running rocks on Landorus T, and I don't even know if you always want to bring Celebi. So I would have liked to see him get a better steel type. The Eradicated Alolan's fine, I guess, for a dark type because you definitely need one. And I think the Toxicroak's probably going to be useless. So that is why I like being a great shot. But I think his first 6 picks are going to be unstoppable because Charizard X is amazing. Best Mega format. You heard it here. Yeah, let's just talk about #1.
Interestingly, just before we stop on you stopped on Greg, Greg probably didn't know that Starmie was the better pick than Rotom Wash because he is washed up.
Oh.
Starmie went undrafted, so
so did Talonflame. I don't know what these people are doing, but I'm about to get in the game and show them like what's up. Talonflame, Starmie, you gotta draft it. It just needs drafting.
A really interesting one at #1. You say I don't know what he's doing in a bad light. I genuinely don't know what Gypsy's doing with his team. Like I do like I'm saying Gypsy's team is perfect, almost near perfect, but I don't know what he's doing with it in a really excited way because it's a really interesting draft. Like just to look at because it has that stall element which is really nice, like really excitingly nice, but also can be run sort of semi-offensively. There's no immediate scream of any form of HO6 that he could bring. He's most often going to be bringing bulky offense, semi-store, which is really nice and a really nice, complete polarized opposite to the Matty draft. Matty's draft looks like bulky offense to offense, whereas Gypsy's is semi-store to almost bulky offense to stall. So that's really nice. His core is disgusting. Aegislash Garchomp Clefable is ridiculous. You're not going to see a better Fairy Dragon Steel Core. That's up there with like Celesteela, Mega Gardevoir, Cura Black. That's on that level of Fairy Dragon Steel Core. The Suicune, Gypsy's used Suicune millions of times before. He's used it effectively millions of times before. Z Excelgor is a cash C1. People don't know the coverage that Excelgor gets and how hard it can actually hit, which is ridiculous. Mega Medicham in Gypsy's hands is nuts because of how strong it is and the EVing. That if you EV Mega Jump properly and just don't go adamant 252 speed, then click high jump kick. If you actually think about Mega Jump sets, this thing could be a problem. I like the Hypno. I think it's worth more than 1 point. Being Wish Passer, Cleric, it gets screens. It's a bulky psychic type. Like that's ridiculous. Vileplume is now probably gonna rise in price as well because it's just going to become so prominent with the fact that it gets strength sap and it's almost as bulky as an Amoonguss, but doesn't have that regen core. It does get reliable recovery though, so it's really nice as well. And he drafted the best Aegislash counter in the game. So although I don't think Aegislash is amazingly broken and won't solo the league like people have been saying it will, I think it is a balanced mon. I just think that Gypsy's draft is extremely interesting, and it's going to be very difficult for people to prep for because they just don't know what he's going to do. I think I love that aspect about it. Sorry, Gypsy, for making the power rankings boring and having you up here already. I'd love to see you climb from the bottom, but why did you draft this then? Because it's too good not to be this high.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I have Gypsy #1 tail from the play style that I used to play back in like generations ago, like over the span over multiple generations, right? Gypsy King is like the favorite draft that I've ever seen in my entire life, just because I really like the Aegislash, Clefable, Suicune, Mandibuzz, Quagsire with Vileplume and Avalugg, right? There's so much defensive possibilities here, but these are all defensive mons that, because they're offensive pressure, and those are the best kind of defensive mons. They're definitely my favorite, right? And the complement with the Garchomp, the Excelgor, the Mega Medicham. And you're talking about you don't see a world where he runs HO. I definitely see a world where he runs HO. I definitely see a nice Aegislash, Garchomp, Clefable, Excelgor, Lego, Mega Medicham coming through. It just has so many options on both spectrums because it feels like every Pokemon that he drafted can flex as an offensive dumpster that's going to just kill everything in front of it, or a defensive mon that's never going to be killed ever. So that's why I really like his draft. It's straight versatile. It just does everything you could ever want it to. So yeah, that's why Gypsy Kings drafts at number 1.
So with that, I believe we are bringing this week's Euro Power Rankings to it, and hopefully it hasn't been too long for you guys. We've looked at this and given our opinions. Obviously, we want to hear your opinions in the comments below. So make sure you drop your opinions on our rankings. Also your own rankings in the comments below, because we would love to read those comments. Make sure you show your support to the NPL channel by dropping a like and a subscribe. All the coaches' links will be in the description, including, I think, the minus coaches, so hopefully they will be there as well. Make sure you check the minus games out on Thursday to Friday, and then I believe the majors coaches games go up between Saturday and Monday, but I will check that out. And if you don't, just double check, make sure you follow them on Twitter, because then you'll be able to know for sure. Also check the fan server out, because the fan server is a great place to be, to come and shout at me. If you don't like my power rankings, you can shout at Hallu if you don't like his power rankings, and we have pick'ems there every week as well, so make sure you go check the fan server out. That is in the description as well. Hallu, have you got any closing notes?
Yeah, so definitely check out everything that he said, but also for the analysts, if you want to be Turbo Ryan, we're your idols, and you're like, yeah, Gypsy King's cool and he wins a lot of games, but the coolest people in the whole format, or Turbo and Hallu for doing the power rankings, we have released the analyst application. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so that's going to be in the description. Check that out. Apply, definitely. We will look over your application. We are looking for analysts to fill roles, because if you guys, I'm sure you guys, some of you have seen already that I'm doubling up on power rankings for minors and majors, and I don't want to be doubling up on power rankings for majors and minors. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of spots to fill. Apply if you're interested. I think that's all overall for this draft for NPL Season 8. I would have to give them a B, because there's no Starmie, and Starmie's Bay. So yeah, that's all. So see you guys later, draft, or see you guys later till next week, same day I think will be our week 1 power rankings. So yeah, a lot of content for you guys to check out. Check it all out.
Just a quick note before we go. If you want to be that minus power rankings number, just make sure you absolutely sing my praises in the application. Just say I'm great, and it'll be cool.
Don't listen to them. That's the quickest way to get denied. We're gonna be like, Turbo, he likes Turbo. Turbo's not okay. Deny, delete.
No, we're rambling.
Delete.
Tune in next week.
All right, later.